Today we are going to solve quadratic equations using factoring and graphing. We're going to solve real-world applications involving quadratic equations. So first of all, we have the zero product property. So basically, if you've got two items being multiplied, one of them has to give you 0. So that's saying if AB is equal to 0, then either A has to equal 0 or B has to equal 0. So let's come down here. We practice factoring. So we're going to factor these and then we're going to solve them. So, and we're going to use the zero product property to do so. So factoring this, what times what gives you x squared? And that would be x times x. And then you want to think what multiplies to give you a positive 6 and adds to give you a negative 5 there. So that would be a minus 2 times a minus 3. So a negative 2 times a negative 3 gives you 6, and negative 2x plus a negative 3x gives you a negative 5x. So now over here you want to figure out how do you get 0 and how do you get 0. So we can come over here, we can say x minus 2 equals 0 and solve for x, and we can say x minus 3 equals 0 and solve for x. So I can add 2, and we get x equals 2. I can go ahead and add 3, and add 3, and we end up getting x equals 3. So our two solutions there are x equals 2 and x equals 3. So then coming down here to letter B here, we're going to go ahead, we have to set everything equal to 0 before we can factor this. So right now it's set equal to negative 12. So I'd need to bring my 12 over here on this side. So I end up getting x squared minus 7x plus 12 equals 0. So now factor that left-hand side, do your two sets of parentheses. What times what gives you x squared? It'd be x times x. What multiplies to give you 12 and adds to give you a negative 7? It'd be a minus 4 and a minus 3. So then you want to think, how do I get 0 and how do I get 0? So I can say x minus 4 equals 0 and x minus 3 equals 0. So now I can add 4 to both sides over here, and I end up getting x equals 4. I can add 3 to both sides over here, and I get x equals 3. So those are our two solutions, x equals 3 and x equals 4. All right, so now coming down here to look at a problem like this, letter C here, we've got x minus 7 and then squared equals 25. So for this one here, I would go ahead and since this term over here on the left-hand side is squared, I would actually use my square root property to solve this one, and I would go ahead and take the square root of both sides. When I take the square root of the right-hand side, I'm going to get a plus or minus over here. So this square root and the square there, they cancel each other out on the left-hand side, so you simply get x minus 7. And square root of 25 there is 5, so you get plus or minus 5. So then you can simply add 7 to both sides. And so now you've got two solutions here. You've got x equals 5 plus 7, and you've got x equals negative 5 plus 7. Well, 5 plus 7 there is 12, and negative 5 plus 7 there is 2. So you get two solutions, x equals 2 and x equals 12. All right, letter D isn't one of those problems. You've got a 4x squared equals a 36x. So the easiest way to solve something like this is probably to go ahead and bring that 36x over on the other side. That's not going to help to square root a x on that side. So now I get 4x squared minus 36x equals 0. So you only have two terms here. I'm looking at that thinking, oh yeah, there's a GCF in this one here. So I'm thinking what goes into 4 that also goes into 36, and I'm thinking, oh yeah, 4 does. And then what do they have in common for a variable? They have a variable of an x in common. So 4x times what gives me a 4x squared? That would be an x. 4x times what gives me a 36x? That would be a 9. So now I can set this term equals 0 and set this term equals 0 and solve. So 4x equals 0, and x minus 9 equals 0. So to get rid of the 4 over here, it's connected to the x by multiplication, so I have to do the inverse of that, which is the divide. So I end up getting x equals 0. Over here, I have to get rid of the minus, so I have to use the inverse operation there, which is an add. So I end up getting x equals 9. So x equals 0 and x equals 9. Solve these by graphing. So to solve one of these by graphing, what we're going to have to do here is we're going to have to bring everything over on the other side. So I'm going to subtract 2. I'm going to add 2x. And I'm lining them up to where they need to be combined there with. So I end up getting a 5x squared. And then over here I've got a 30x plus the 2x gives me a 32x. And then I've got the 14 minus 2 there gives me a plus 12. That's equal to 0. So we're going to put that into our graphing calculator now. So we are going to go to our y equals now. And if you have anything in there, you're going to clear it out. Our equation there says 5x squared plus 32x plus 12. So we hit the 5x squared plus 32x and then I believe it was plus 12. You don't need to put in the equals 0 because y there is 0. So we're just going to graph this out. And basically what we're trying to figure out is we're trying to find the x-intercepts. So where is that point right there hitting? Let me do this. We're trying to figure out where is that 0. Let me put a little dot on there for us. Okay, it's not going to work. That's okay. So I wanted to put a dot there. So anyways, we have to figure out where does it hit the x-axis. So we are going to find that. To do so there, we are going to go ahead and do what's called second calc. So we're going to hit second, then calc, and we're going to go down to 0. Now if you've got the TI-83s, it's called root on that one. So then we want to surround the point. So to surround the point, you need to move your cursor, and you got to figure out where it is. Mine's way up there. I have to use the left arrow to bring it around. And I want to be on the left side of the point that I want. So there it is on the left side of the point that I want. I'm going to hit enter. And then I want it to be on the right side of the point that I want, which is right there. Enter. Enter one more time. And it's going to put exactly where we want it. So that is the x-intercept there. It's sitting there at -6. So if I come over here, one of my answers here is going to be x equals -6. All right, so let's do the other one. There's another x-intercept. That parabola is hitting it in 2 places, so we're going to do second calc again. I'm going to go down to 0, hit enter, and then I'm going to use my right arrow to make the cursor go around. Either you have to use the left or the right arrow, depending upon where your cursor is at. Okay, I went too fast. So now that's the left side of the point that I want. I'm going to hit enter. This is the right side of the point that I want. I'm going to hit enter. I'm going to hit enter one more time. And it's going to put it right there, and it's saying it's a negative 0.4. So that is my other value. So basically, we had a parabola here. Let me kind of graph this out here. And we had a parabola, and it went through this point, and it went through a point over here. And the graph looks something like that. All right, and so what we have to do is we have to put the cursor here using second calc. We're trying to figure out these two values right there. All right, so to find those two values there, what we have to do here is we have to put the cursor, first of all, we have to put it here and hit enter. And the second time we had to put the cursor down here and hit enter. And hit enter one more time with that one. Right, and then to do the other side there, what you want to do there is you want to first put the cursor here and hit enter. And then you want to move the cursor here and hit enter. And don't forget, you have to do second calc again. So we had to do second calc here twice. So let's come down here and do this one as well then. So first of all, I have to bring the 15 over. So I have a 2x squared plus 7x minus 15 equals 0. So we're going to put that into our graphing calculator. We're going to do y equals 2x squared plus 7x minus 15. So let's go ahead and go to our graphing calculator there again. I'm going to go to my y equals. I'm going to clear out what I have in there. I'm going to punch in 2x squared and then plus 7x minus 15. Graph. So there it comes. And so let's find those 2 points. So remember what we said, we're going to go second calc. We're going to go down to 0, hit enter. And then we're going to use our left arrow there to bring it over to where we want it. You can kind of see what the ordered pairs are down at the bottom of your screen. It's there at -3, and I can see I have to go way over to -5. So now it's starting to come. So we have to start up here, that's the left, hit enter, then use your right arrow, go to the right of the point that you want, hit enter one more time, and it's going to put it right there, and it says it's there at -5. So x equals -5 is one of our solutions. So we can come down here and we can say x equals -5. And then let's find our other one there. So I'm going to go back to my graph. I'm going to go ahead and go second calc again. I'm going to go down to 0, or those of you at 83s are doing root. And you're going to use your right arrow. You're going to bring it around. You can watch it. It goes down, and then it's going to start to come up. And we know we have to be around 1 point, so watch the bottom there. You can kind of see when it's going to start to come up. So I can see mine's at 0.9 right now, so it's starting to come up. Anytime I can hit enter, then I want to be on the right side of the point that I want. Hit enter, enter. It's going to put it right there, and it says it's there at 1.5. So my other value there is 1.5. So let me kind of show you what we did here to recap that. So first I'll just graph it out. So basically, just keep using the same color. There's one there. There's one over there somewhere. So your parabola kind of looks like that. So to find that, what we did is we went ahead and we did second calc. We put our cursor over here on the left-hand side, and we hit enter. Then we used our arrow and brought it down here and put it someplace down there, and then we hit enter, enter. Right? Then we went ahead and then we did second calc again, and we put our cursor down here and hit enter, and then used our arrows and moved it up here and hit enter, enter. And then that should put the cursor there and tell us what the values there are. All right, we've got one more of these to do. So let's go ahead and let's bring everything over on one side. So I have to add 19x, add 19x. So I get 6x squared plus 19x equals negative 15. I'm going to go ahead and bring 15 over. There's nothing to combine it with. So now I'm going to graph that out on my graphing calculator. I'm going to graph out 6x squared plus 19x plus 15. So I'm going to enter that into my graphing calculator again, so let's do that. So you want to go ahead and go to your y equals, clear out what you have in there, punch in 6x squared plus 19x plus 15. Hit graph. And there it is. So this time it looks like we only have one x-intercept. So let's go second calc, 0, hit enter. My cursor is way up there at 0.15, so I've got to bring it down. There it is. I've got to go to the left side of the point that I want. So there it is over there on the left side. I'm going to hit enter. I'm going to go ahead and bring my cursor on the right side of the point I want. Hit enter one more time. And it's going to put it there, and it says it's there at negative 1.5. Right, so basically this is what we did. All right, so we went ahead and we did second calc. And we went ahead and we put our cursor here on the left-hand side someplace and hit enter. Then we moved our cursor down here, over here on the second side over here, on the right side, and we hit enter, enter. Because this time we only had one x-intercept, and it was there at negative 1.2, negative 1.5. All right, we have this function is h equals negative 16t squared plus 48t. It gives the height of the tennis ball in t seconds after it's hit. Ignoring the height of the tennis player, how long does it take for the ball to fall to the ground? So to fall to the ground, it has a height of 0. So I can say that it's 0. I can plug in 0 for h is equal to negative 16t squared plus 48t. So now I'm going to use GCF. I can pull out the negative 16t, and I'm left with t minus 3.